Gulf Oil at that time was regarded as one of the seven sisters. 7 of the biggest oil companies in the world. It brought them right to their knees. They merged with Chevron to get out from under. Depend upon Canada to take care of you. They will. All they want is money. Sometimes things get done, and they have consequences that are not seen up front. Our legislators from Massachusetts decided one of the ways of slowing down the Weaver's Cove group was to make the Taunton River wild and scenic. We pleaded with them, don't do it. My company lives just on the banks of the Taunton River. I've got to have dockage, I've got to have wharfage. I'd like to be able to expand my facility. Another company right across the river. They build a lot of small boats. Small, I mean 65, 75 footers, tugboats, patrol boats, gliding and Hearn. With this legislation that was passed, as an unintended consequence, I cannot expand my facility. When I used to have to go through 4 agencies to get a permit to do anything to my waterfront, and within a quarter of a mile of that waterfront, anybody now has to go through 16 agencies to get permission. I can't speak for others. All I can say is for myself, forget it. I'm not going to start, spending half my fortune trying to convince some people. And the thing that really got to me quickly on that one was that you have to go to the Wampanoag Indian Council for permission to build a dock. I'm sorry, not going to happen. We'll stay the way we are.
Don, you can go after the Canadians all you want, but leave the Wampanoags alone. Come on.
Well, it's just senseless legislation that hampers business, slows it down.
This isn't the right place to talk about senseless legislation even.
Well, that's one other thing I'd like to get into. I understand that there's pending legislation for the height of the bridge clearances, Mount Hope Bridge. They're saying, what, 25 feet?
Yeah.
Okay. That applies to everybody.
Right.
So you're going to shut down Brayton Point? Is that what we're going to do? Shut down the power plant?
I believe the limitation is on hazardous material. I don't know if what's going to Brayton would be considered hazardous material.
Does it make a difference whether you knock the bridge down with a coal boat or an LNG ship?
That is a fine distinction that I'm sure will be discussed when the legislation is brought forward. But you're right, it doesn't matter what knocks the Dartmouth Bridge down.
Well, I know that what has happened in the past sometimes bears nothing on the future. Irving Oil from Canada built 2 or 3 ships. And why they built them to this thing, you'll never know. But they could not get under the Mount Hope Bridge in ballast. They couldn't take enough ballast at the dock because of the draft restrictions in sailing. We used to have to take maximum ballast at the dock and kill time going down the channel. If we couldn't get enough ballast, we used to have to anchor north of the Mount Hope Bridge. Wait until the chief mate had enough ballast on board, then proceed. To put a 25-foot limit on that bridge is, it's another impending roadblock. You're building dragons, then you spend time fighting the dragons. Makes sense. I would say the question was asked here before about the impact on recreational boating. The greatest impact you've got out there right now is your economy. I don't know what's going to happen this coming season. The last season, there's probably 25% of the boats never went in the water. They don't have the money. If they can get the economy going, instead of fighting with phantom dragons, fight the real dragons. Unemployment, taxes, a cheap or a reasonable supply and the cost of fuel. Those are the things that you've got to look for. Get the price of fuel down. When the first go around on the container terminal, they wanted to build an oil terminal up in that Davisville Pier 1, Pier 2 area. It was going to be able to handle a 50-foot draft. The projection was we were going to build a pipeline from there to Albany. Albany in the wintertime is really a tough go to get up there. We run up there all the time. I've seen it so bad we make 2.5 miles in a day. That's kind of tough going. Anyhow, when Governor Allman took one look at that proposal, he said, forget it. An oil terminal is too controversial. It never got off his desk. Right now, I've got a barge, a tuck in a barge, heading for Cape Canaveral in a brand new oil terminal. We're going to be the second vessel in there. Can you imagine what would happen up here in Rhode Island if somebody threw it on the table and said, we're going to build a new oil facility, a new storage facility? You'd be right back up here. No, 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 all the no birds saying no again. You want to see if things prosper in this state? Stop this NIMBY stuff. Share the bay. The people who are up here complaining about the bay, they don't want to share. If you want a good look at the economy, down to Newport Harbor right now. See how much of the economy you've got down there in the harbor. It's a ghost town. There's nothing in there. You want a sustainable year-round business climate? This is it. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Church. I appreciate very much your testimony. Are there any questions for the witness? Senator Walaska.
There is some legislation, I think, on the House side regarding a 25-foot clearance. And I think I also read in the same article that the worldwide clearance is 3 feet accepted.
Both ends.
So the 25 would seem excessive then to you.
We're creating another dragon. So now let's fight with another dragon that we just created. Doesn't make sense.
You know, it's a fine line we walk with this legislation, with this committee. And the one side, as you indicated, there are jobs, cost of heating fuel in our state. There are no pipelines into Rhode Island. We're not even at the end of a pipeline. There are no pipelines, as we know. And of course, the other side is the environmental concerns that we all share, I think, in this room. So to balance the two is very, very, not only environmental, but safety. You know, we did hear that certainly the pipe fitters are very qualified, and I'm sure they could do the job. However, some of this work hasn't been done before. So we need to have assurances that, you know, what they say they can do, they can do. Same with building. You know, Senator Bates asked the question, many of these building projects of Greg Mancini, they're done above ground. Some of the stuff is in the water now. So there are some legitimate questions regarding the project and its effects on the environment and the safety factor.
Right. No, I can understand that. But what I don't understand is that the rhetoric that I'm hearing now, I've heard over and over and over again on any project in Narragansett Bay. Every one of them. The tune hasn't changed.
Did you testify before the Port Commission? Did my commission? I know you did, because I recognize. I remember the testimony.
He's an odd guy to recognize.
I recognize the testimony, and I knew you were from Portsmouth. The second you got up here, I shocked. Your neighbor didn't recognize you. And I think that we talk about the same thing in the Port Commission. Matter of fact, we have a meeting tomorrow, as a matter of fact, 2 o'clock. but there are so many opportunities on the bay, and it does become necessary at some point to try to weigh, you know, where we're going to go. You know, people talk about mixed use, and I don't know if it was you that said it or the gentleman that moved his facility, unfortunately, out of Rhode Island to either Newport or New Bedford. And he said, I don't mind my business, he had a steamboat business, I don't mind my business being next door to the condominium, the people in the condominiums, but I know those people in condominiums don't want to be next to me. And that's the problem that we face with regard to basically Provport more than Quonset.